guys, I'm Laura Vitale, and on this episode of Laura in the Kitchen, I want to bring you an updated version of my buttermilk biscuits that I made here years ago, but these are my all butter, flakier than anything biscuits that you are going to love. Let me take you over the ingredients so we can get started. You'll need some self-rising flour, a little bit of sugar, some baking powder and baking soda and salt, some buttermilk, some cold unsalted butter, and you'll need just a little bit of all-purpose flour for rolling. That is it. Now we are going to get started right away because one of the most important things about making biscuits or really good flaky biscuits is that your fat is really cold, kind of like making pie crust. So in my mixer, I'm going to add all of my dry ingredients, and now I have a paddle attachment attached to my whisk or to my mixer just because it's the best attachment for the job. You can make this in a food processor as well, but my food processor is a little bit on the small side. It doesn't mix things the way I want it to. I'm going to add my cold butter. This is unsalted butter that I cut into little tiny pieces, and then it was from the fridge, and then I threw it into the freezer for 10 minutes just to make sure it's nice and cold. And now I'm just going to raise this up and get them mixing. I want to mix it for a few minutes or until the butter starts to kind of break down a little bit, and then we'll get going on adding the buttermilk. This is looking good. I'm going to add my buttermilk. I'm going to add half of it now because sometimes you'll find that you don't need to add the whole amount of buttermilk. I have 1 cup here. Sometimes I need 3/4 of a cup. Sometimes I need half of a cup. Sometimes I need a whole cup. But I can tell that I've added half, and I'm certainly going to need to add a bit more. So I'm going to add another 1/4 cup and then just see where I am. But I think I might have to add the full amount. So I'm just going to add that in, get that all mixed together, and then get ready to get this thing rolling. Gorgeous. Okay, now I'm going to work quickly because I don't want the butter to get warm. So let me get this out of here. I'm going to get all my stickiness out of here. I'm telling you, this looks intimidating, but it couldn't be easier. And when you see the trick that's really going to take these to the next level, you're going to understand why I am so incredibly excited. And now this idea to make biscuits this way came from when I made croissants a few months back. And if you haven't seen that video, make sure you check it out because it is they are just croissants, homemade croissants. That recipe is phenomenal. So then I applied that same method of the folding to other things, and I realized I'm missing out. I am missing out. So what I need to do now, working quickly, is to gather my dough, and you add a little bit of flour at a time because you need to make sure that this isn't too sticky, but you don't want to add too much flour at once, otherwise they become too dry. And then I have a rolling pin near me. I'm going to roll this out to about a 1/2 inch thick. I want like a 1/2 inch thick rectangle or square, really doesn't matter. I prefer a rectangle shape. You can see all the pieces of butter, the bits and pieces. That's so crucial because that's what's going to puff up as it bakes. It's just fantastic. So once you do that, you are going to just lightly sprinkle the surface with some flour, just lightly. Then it doesn't matter that it's not perfect. Who cares? No one's coming over to your house and measuring if it's perfect or not. You're going to fold this in thirds, just like we did the croissants. And what this does is it creates layers. And those layers are going to be what get all fluffy as you bake. It's just fantastic. And then roll again. And then just repeat that same process of folding in thirds, pulling it closer to you. If it gets sticky, don't worry. I mean, this is what you have a little bit of flour on hand for. And then re-roll it, roll it out again, fold it in thirds. I'll show you. I will show you. This might seem like it's a lot extra work, but it really isn't. I mean, all you're doing is making some layers, which is going to puff up. Now, we are all used to and we're all aware that there's tons of store-bought biscuits you can buy that get really fluffy. They're actually really good, but I love making as much as possible homemade because I just think that you can't beat the flavor, you can't beat that feeling you get when you're making something that someone loves. And those flaky biscuits are something that I love making them from scratch, and they are just so simple and easy. And this is going to be the last time we roll this, well, the last time we fold. So it's 3 times total. Fold in thirds again. And now we are going to roll this for real to a 1/2 inch thick and start cutting them into biscuits. You can tell I'm excited. I love bread, I love biscuits, I love anything that's like, you know, that warm, comforting smell coming out of the kitchen. And you can see the butter's still cold, but I am working fast. I'm like lightning machine over here. Now I'm actually gonna roll my dough out to about 3/4 of an inch thick instead of a 1/2 inch thick. That's just because I like my biscuits nice and fat and buttery and gorgeous and flaky. That's why I'm gonna leave my dough a little bit thicker. But if you want yours to be thinner, then by all means, just roll this out to about a 1/2 inch thick. And I'm just gonna take a biscuit cutter and cut around. And you wanna make sure to work quickly because as we all know, dough, butter, heat, they don't mix. Now I cut out some smaller ones. I have like some 3-inch, some 2-inch, and some like 1.5 inch or so. And then working really quickly, I'm just going to, as best as I can, regroup all the little bits and pieces of my dough. They might not be all as flaky as those because now I've kind of lost the flakiness, but that's okay. When you work quickly, the butter is still cold and you can still manage to roll out a couple more biscuits. So I'm gonna just push it together with my hands. A lot of times I find it so much easier to, when you're working with yeast dough or bread dough or biscuit dough, to kind of push it how you want it using your hands rather than using a rolling pin. And I'm just gonna cut 2 more out of this batch and then I think I'm done because I don't want to work the dough too much, but that still looks pretty flaky to me, so I'm not gonna worry too much about it. And now I want to pop these into the fridge for about 10 minutes so that they can kind of relax a bit because we did handle them quite a bit and it's kind of hot in here, and then we'll get ready to pop them into the oven. These were in the fridge for 10 minutes and I have my oven preheating to 400. All I'm doing is brushing the tops with a little egg wash because I want the tops of these to be really beautiful golden brown, and the egg wash does help that happening. That does help achieve that. I'm too excited to even think. All egg wash is 1 egg beaten with a tablespoon of water, milk, or cream, whichever you prefer. I'm using water today, but any of those would work. Pop these in for about 15-16 minutes and I'll show you what they look like when they're done. My biscuits were in the oven for about 16 minutes and I've got a giant grin on my face because they're making my mouth salivate because they smell so good, but they look just like I wanted them to. Look at the flaky layers. You see what I'm seeing? Are you seeing that? Look at that. You can see them. That's from all the work we did. All the work. We worked here forever and ever. But that's from us rolling them and folding and rolling and folding. Totally worth it. They're piping hot, but man, I wish somebody would throw me down on a buttery biscuit right now. Ha! Right now. You might not win, my friend, because these are just, I mean, look. It's a simple recipe. It doesn't require crazy ingredients, but it's just a couple different things here and there that really make the biggest difference. I mean, look at this. This should be in a museum somewhere, okay? This should be looked at every day. This should be looked at as, you know, this should be like what biscuits should look like. And this should be sitting right next to it because that is gorgeous. I hope that you give these a try. If you do, don't forget to tag me in a picture on social media. I always love seeing your recreation. I need to run to my fridge to get some butter to spread over these because these are still warm, so it's gonna melt and seep in there beautifully. I hope you enjoy spending time with me. Go to laureninthekitchen.com and get the recipe, and I will see you next time. Bye.